All right, this is Indestructible Gaming. Today we're joined by Jimmie Tyrell and Eric Saar from Subpixel, located in California, creators of the app game Ready, Set, Go. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Mr. K, do you want to get started?
Yeah, why not? So how long has Subpixel been in the game design business?
Yeah, so business is a funny word. We sort of just started this thing less than a year ago. Have been toying around with a few different ideas, and Ready Set Go was really like our first full release. So as a business, Subpixel has not been around for too long, but it's kind of interesting. We've kind of always wanted to get into indie game development and start a company of our own. So we've kind of had the idea of starting Subpixel for several years. I've owned the domain for like 9 years, and I've always joked around with people that it's the name of my future game development company. So
It's a good name.
Yeah. I like it. It's sort of like there's like pixel perfection, but like there's subpixel perfection. It's like what's between the pixels, like what's not visible to the common eye. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of that's one of the focuses of the company, is to kind of make unique and interesting games like that. So the idea has been around for 9 years. Even before that, I got into indie game development when I was a teenager and made my first video game when I was like 14.
Oh, wow.
And Eric and I have also worked in the game development business probably 5 years or more each. So yeah, we've kind of been on the periphery of true game development, but this is our first indie release.
So where did you two meet, and what made you make this jump into this type of business together?
Yeah, we worked together at two previous companies, actually. We met at a startup that was called Playdom. It was in the California Bay Area. We were making social and mobile games. This is back in like 2009.
Okay.
And that company actually got acquired by Disney while we were there. And so we started working on some games with Disney IP, which was pretty fun at the time. Jimmie worked on a Star Wars game. I worked on a Pirates of the Caribbean game. But, the games industry is a tough business. So we both ended up leaving that. And Jimmie actually founded a company, a non-gaming company called Reflective. That was a SaaS business, like selling, business software. And I joined him there. We ended up working there for another 5 years after Playdom, and sort of seeing more of the business side of running a company. And then we both left there last year and said, hey, we've had enough of the sort of hardcore business. Let's go back to game development. That's where the passion is. So we sort of started fiddling around with a few game ideas and managed to actually finish a game, which is always the hardest step. So yeah, that's kind of the cycle. But yeah, we worked together for, I guess, 10 years at various different places. And
that's pretty impressive.
Seems like a good fit. Yeah, we know that we don't drive each other too insane. So we thought we could maybe make some games together.
It's funny because this has kind of always been in the cards, because me and Eric, when we worked at Disney, we'd stay late at the office playing video games with each other. And then when we were at Reflective, we would do the same thing. We were like there until midnight some nights, just on our work computers playing video games, and we still play video games together. So this has kind of always been in the cards, and we finally decided to do it almost a year ago.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It is pretty cool. So
it's pretty fun.
So besides Ready, Set, Go, is Subpixel working on any other projects?
So it's just the two of us right now. So it's hard to juggle multiple projects at once. And there's more complexity to Ready, Set, Go than it appears there is on the surface. So that's our main focus. We started working on sort of a bigger idea initially. I think this probably happens to a lot of companies, but we had sort of big dreams. We started working on it. We realized, whoa, this is going to take a long time. We need to learn some more about the process and about the tools we're using and what it's like to launch a game. So Jimmie actually had the idea to work on a smaller project, something that we could get done quickly. And we made Ready, Set, Go. And we've had a really positive response. People really like it. Obviously you guys wanted to talk to us, so that's
Yep.
exciting. So
really fun.
Yeah, so we decided let's focus on that for a little while. Let's keep putting some more into it. We're enjoying it, and people like the game, and that's kind of the hardest thing to find is a game people actually like to play.
Yeah.
So we're going to focus on that for a little while.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
So I know I enjoyed your website. It's a simple website. It's only a few pages, but I really enjoyed reading the game development information that you guys both put out. I don't know if they were like separate blogs that you put out on a different site.
Yeah, blog posts, yeah.
But I thought it was really interesting because it kind of gave you some background information of like how to create a game and some of the techniques that you use and stuff like that. Is this something that you guys, would consider doing, helping people along with making games in the future, or
yeah? No, absolutely. I think that the teaching and sharing aspect of any sort of creation is it's kind of it's fun and it's a noble effort. So I enjoy doing that. I would be lying if I said that it wasn't also part of our marketing and promotion strategy too. We want to try to cast as wide a net as possible. And in the indie game development business, it's kind of tough to reach an audience, to just find an audience. It sort of starts with your family and friends, and then the next closest thing that you can get to is other game developers. And so hope that you can offer some content that they can actually consume and learn from and find useful, and also in the process, try out your game and maybe share it with some of their friends. And that's sort of a method to break out. So it's kind of a win-win for us because I think we like to be able to share and teach. We're also looking for a wider audience. So part of our strategy was just any content that we could share that could be useful or consumable by other game developers or even people in other businesses. Just put it out there, whether it's actual code, which you might have seen in one of my blog posts, or if it's even like a blog post on how to analyze your player base or how to market your game. Just really anything that you can kind of come up with. There's a benefit to kind of putting it out there, and so that was part of the strategy. And I'd say I enjoy doing that stuff. It's a lot of work though, like kind of coming up with that blog article,
right,
and putting enough information in there that it's actually useful. But this is a good forcing function because it's like, I know that there's actually a benefit to it too. It's not like I'm just going to put it out there and, maybe somebody will read it and maybe somebody won't. This way I know that if I put it out there, like I can probably get eyes on it and there could be a benefit for our company as well for our game. So yeah, I think that we'll be doing that a lot in the future. We haven't really formalized a strategy around that or really talked about it much, but I think it's just something that kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, that's cool because I learned a lot of stuff through that.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
So who came up with the idea for the goat?
Yeah. So the goat came from, so the original version of Ready, Set, Goat was a very small game that I made for a game jam. And the game jam was like 5 days. I basically fooled around for 2 days just trying to figure out like, what am I even making? Just experimented with different things and then finished the initial game in 3 days. But at that point, it was all just squares running around on the screen. There was no goat. There was no creeps, no bad guys. There was these 2 blocks hanging in midair that I knew I wanted there, but I didn't know exactly what they would end up being in the future if they were going to be anything. And one of the things about the player's character, the avatar, was like when it would jump, I added like a rotation animation so that it would always be doing flips. So it would do a flip whenever you hit jump and it would land on the enemy, and then it would do another flip off that enemy. And it reminded me of these videos that I've seen of goats. I don't know if you guys have seen these. I might be the only one. Where it's like the goats are they're going crazy, running around, jumping off of everything, including other goats.
Yeah. Now I want to see that.
It's hilarious. Yeah, you got to look it up.
I'll have to look
they'll
that up
do
later.
like backflips off of other goats.
Yeah, that's impressive.
It's so much energy. Yeah.
I wish we could do that. Just backflip off of other people.
Yeah, it violates the laws of physics.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I was looking at my own game, and I literally had the idea: what if it was a goat? And I posted that into our Discord channel, and I think everybody was just like, yeah, that sounds good. Like, let's go with that. So then it went into the more visual design phase of like, how do I fit a goat into what used to be a square, and figuring that stuff out. So, but yeah, that was kind of the initial idea behind it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've seen some of those videos of watching goats in somebody's, backyard where they have tons of them, and you get that one like young goat that just decides everybody's, a ramp or some kind of trampoline I'm going to bounce off. Yeah. So it is fun to watch.
Yeah, the goat in Ready Set Goat is definitely based on those goats.
Yeah. So how long did it take you guys to develop the game?
Yeah, so like I was saying, the initial game jam, if you look at it, it's actually still up on itch.io.
Okay.
It's like, just the square block version. And I'll keep it up there for posterity purposes.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool to see.
It's always good to look back at stuff you made.
Yeah, exactly. And it's different from the game that we have now. But you can definitely see there's a lot in common still. So 3 days is all it took to get that far, but it was missing quite a bit. And actually that's where Eric came in, kind of filling in. They say that there's like the 80-20 rule, and the game, maybe was 80% done with the game jam. And if you think about it, the last parts, it's like art and like actually publishing it to a phone. It sounds like the stuff that you can do kind of at the end. Maybe that's a naive opinion, but it takes a long time, and so it kind of requires somebody else's eye to come in and say like, hey, maybe you should go in this direction. Maybe we should do this, and getting it really polished for production, so that when it hits audiences, they really connect with it. But yeah, so all that took months, maybe like 5 months, I think, of putting the final polish on it. And some of it was more important than others, but I think in the end, it ended up being a really good game, and there's a lot of features in it, like things like we really wanted a leaderboard in there to kind of drive the competitive spirit, and so people could see what is actually capable, or what can be done in this game, like what are people capable of, and give them kind of a target to aim at. And so like little things like that, like getting that to work for both Android and the iPhone. Was just took more time than we expected. Artwork, I was the sole artist for all of the art that's in the game right now, and I'm not really an artist, so I really struggled with that. I mean, like things that would take maybe a regular game artist or pixel art maker, what would take them maybe like days probably took me weeks. So that was a huge slowdown too, and there was so much back and forth in my own head about what was considered a final product for some of this artwork. And then I'd show it off to other folks and get their feedback, and then kind of sometimes go back to the drawing board or stuff like that. So, I think in a larger game development studio, stuff like that can be streamlined and go way quicker if you actually have like a dedicated experienced artists to do that stuff. But for us, we struggled a little bit, but it was in the end, I think we had the time, so that was good, and we ended up really liking the final product.
Yeah, that's always good.
Now, Eric, you mentioned I think in one of your blogs that it's important to really make sure that the game is fun and play it constantly, and I'm sure you guys, and you mentioned something about you even made sure that when you were on vacation and you didn't have internet connection to make sure you could still play it and stuff like that. So I guess that was real important for you guys as well, to make sure that it was a big part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to work on something that you're not excited to play, because you just, you'll kind of burn out on it pretty quickly. So I think our focus was never about like, oh, we're going to make money or we're going to get 1 million users. We really just wanted to build something that we would want to play and get competitive about. And we're both sort of more like competitive gamers. Like we'll play first person shooters, and Jimmie played, a lot of Counter-Strike growing up and stuff like that. So we're more sort of in the hardcore games area for our personal playing time. So when we were building it, we really wanted to build something that we felt like we could compete at and that had like the right skill level and stuff like that. So, we played it all the time, and we kept tweaking things to make sure that it was something that we were going to want to play. Mostly just so that we wouldn't get bored. But I think that actually really helped to make something that people have responded well to.
Yeah, and I think that's probably something a lot of new game developers really don't maybe think about. They're in a hurry to try to kind of get something out there, and
they just want the money.
Yeah, I'm going to make millions of dollars, and I'm going to be, it's going to be on Xbox and all this.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't really think about the whole process behind. And that's what, I liked a lot of both of your blogs. It really kind of helps, put together, what you have to think about when creating a game. And, and it is true, because I've always thought about, it'd be fun to create a game, but the amount of work that you really, really have to put into it to make a game good and fun, it's a lot.
But like Eric said, I think if you start from a place of like, this is a game that I would play, and this is a game that I want to play, and it seems enjoyable, like that's always a good starting point.
Mm.
Yep.
So is there a certain game that inspired you to create Ready, Set, Go?
Yeah. So like Eric said, we both kind of come from more a competitive gaming background. And I had always wondered, is it possible to make a game that really drives competition, like that inherently kind of makes people compete with each other for whatever the highest score or whatever. And I've just thought about this for years, and that's why I bought the Subpixel domain and created a Subpixel logo 10 years ago, just because I knew eventually I would probably experiment with this. And yeah, so I think some games that inspired us were like Eric said, like Counter-Strike, like those types of competitive games where really simple rules, I guess, and really understandable. It's not like science fiction. Yeah. It's not like science fiction or anything, and you play it and you immediately know like what the objectives are. And a lot of times, if you are doing good or if you're doing poorly, there's something that you can optimize on as a player. And for some reason, it's like inherently known in a game like that. There's a lot of other games out there like that. One of the games that really inspired Ready, Set, Go was this game called Devil Daggers. Have you guys ever heard of that?
No, but I'm intrigued. No. Please tell me more.
So it's a first-person shooter, and it's all sort of like it kind of reminds me of like old Quake graphics. And there's no level design to speak of. It's just this open floor, like a chessboard, almost like 64 by 64 or something, or 32 by 32, and the only thing that you can do is basically fall off of this board. There's really no obstacles other than that, but random enemies spawn there, and they spawn in a specific pattern that you can learn, and you basically have to do your best to maneuver your way, around these enemies without touching them. And it's a one-hit kill type of deal. And you can take them out as quickly as possible, or there's some other strategies involved too. But actually, Eric got me into that game. He heard about it and was just like, "Hey, Jimmie, I really think that you would like this game." And I got addicted to it. I was just like, I would be at the office by myself, the lights out, and it's kind of like a scary themed game.
Ooh.
And it just scared the heck out of me while I was there alone playing it. But I got really, I loved it. I just played it and really tried to get good at it. So I wanted to kind of bring that experience to mobile. And I also had always wanted to make a one-button mobile game. I didn't want to make it any more complicated than that. And right around the time that Eric and I started working on projects together for Subpixel, there was that one-button game jam that I was telling you about. And so I decided to explore that. And so I just wanted to bring that kind of similar gameplay where, it's very, it's very like, I don't want to say twitchy. I try not to use that word. It's not like a Twitch-based game, but it's very skill-based. You kind of have to learn the mechanics of the game.
Easy to play, hard to master.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And learning the mechanics is sometimes not even enough. Then you have to learn the strategy, and there's this overarching strategy that you have to learn about the game too. And so I just wanted to bring that to mobile devices, and that was the goal. And it's funny because I play Ready Set Go now, and I really have the same reaction that I did when I would play Devil Daggers. So I actually want to play Devil Daggers again to kind of compare the two, but they feel very similar and they're actually, you would look at the two games, they're completely different. One is a 3D first person shooter, one is a 2D mobile platformer. But they definitely evoke the same sense of urgency, and it's just the same feeling. So
man, you're making me want to play it.
You got to try it. Yeah, if you're an FPS fan and you kind of like the high score chasing games, it's a good one. Yeah, it's really fun, and it's, again, you'll play the first time, and you'll lose in 20 seconds or something. You'll think it's impossible. And then you look at a scoreboard, and they'll get to like the 10-minute mark, and you're just like, how is that possible? And it is. If you just kind of put the time and effort into it, it's totally possible. And I think a lot of people are capable of kind of adapting to these types of games, given the opportunity. And so I think that's why this type of game is great for mobile, because it reaches such a wider audience where people who normally wouldn't play this type of game are now a little more interested in it. And we've seen players who, don't even really play games a lot get ridiculously high scores in Ready, Set, Go. And that's kind of, that was one of the theories that we had early on, and it worked out. So it's kind of proven to be true.
So were there any thoughts on changing the game halfway through development, like the character or gameplay, or maybe changing the one button gameplay to multiple buttons at all?
We never thought about changing to multiple buttons. One button was kind of the foundation. This is going to be a one button game. That's going to sort of be the guiding light for us. And that is helpful in some ways because it really keeps you focused. It does limit your options. When we think, okay, we want to solve this problem, a lot of the solutions we think of involve other buttons. And so we have to rule all of those out. But it really does sort of narrow our focus. And we wanted it to be that kind of game. And being a one button game, you can market it that way, but really the whole point is that it's going to be simple and easy for people to pick up. People who maybe don't play a lot of other games. We don't want complexity. We want you to understand how the game works within like a few seconds of your first session. You guys have played it, so you probably noticed there's not like a big tutorial that's holding your hand through every step. You kind of get it within the first couple seconds. And so that was a big guiding principle. So we sort of stuck with that. We did add some stuff through development. As Jimmie was saying, we want to be competitive. We want there to be some skill to it. So, we had a few ideas. Like initially, there were enemies that just took one hit to kill, to stomp, and so we eventually added one that takes 3 hits to stomp and that spawns other enemies. So that really adds sort of a challenge when you get up to some of the higher tiers. You really have to strategize how you're going to do that. We also added the sunglasses mode, where if you get 3 hits in a row, you get sunglasses, and that's
how you get
armor. Yeah. So those kind of, obviously it's still one button, but now you're thinking not just how do I survive, but how do I chain together some stomps so that I can get that, and that's really going to help me keep going. So honestly, it's amazing how similar Jimmie's initial 3-day prototype is to the final in terms of gameplay. I think he nailed the core idea of what we're going to do, and that was really the hard part. So after that, we just sort of added some additional depth to keep us interested as you get to higher and higher scores. But the core didn't change that much, and that's actually not super common in game development. Usually, you're pivoting left and right all the time until you find something that's fun. But this, whether it's Jimmie's brilliance or just dumb luck, we stumbled onto something that worked the first time, and so we were able to just
dumb luck.
Go a little deeper. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a little more credit than that, but whatever it was, it worked, and so we just had to kind of add some more depth features as we went along.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I love one-button games because there's so many games out there, especially on the phone. Sometimes where there's multiple things you got to do, and it's like, it's really hard on a mobile game to do more than one button. Sometimes it's just really kind of limited.
Yeah, when the controls are actually the biggest barrier to playing the game. It kind of just makes you want to put the game down. Like it doesn't matter how exciting or interesting the game is. It just makes you want to put it away, and that's so easy to do with a phone too. It's not like you're almost like glued to it, So
yeah, we had a friend of ours who just had a baby, and we got a great endorsement from her, which was she said this was a perfect game for new parents because they can hold the baby with one hand and play Ready, Set, Go with the other hand. So that was that made the whole project worth it. We felt like, all right, we've achieved something.
Yeah,
that's always good.
And I tried it, and I did download it actually on both Android and Apple. So I had it on my tablet, which is an Android tablet, and I actually liked it better on Apple because I was telling Mr. K that on the phone I could actually use both thumbs on, depending on where the goat was on either end and stuff like that,
nice.
Control them a lot faster. Whereas on the tablet, I was tending to do a lot more of the moving around with my fingers and trying to get them to do what I want them to do. So,
interesting.
But yeah, I liked it a lot better on the phone. So,
okay,
which is great.
Good to know. That reminds me of a funny thing. I've been testing on both iPhone and Android devices, and I'll do this weird thing where I'll start the game at the same time using like two of my fingers and like hit the play game button on two phones at the same time, and then try to tap on each screen at the same time to make sure that both games are playing the same cross-platform. It's the hackiest way to do this, but
it works.
It worked for me.
So do you have an idea of how many people have downloaded Ready, Set, Go since its release?
Yeah, we actually have a really good tracking system. We've got a third-party tool that we put in there, so we can kind of track everything. We can see everything that's going on, see how long people are playing for and what their high scores are, and pretty much every little thing we can follow up on. And that that sort of was informed by our experience working on other products in the past where you really need to have instrumentation to know exactly what's going on. So we have a pretty good tracking system in there. We've had a little over 1,000 installs.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, considering we haven't spent any money on it. Usually, to promote a game, you need to spend on advertising, cross promotion, work on your marketing. We're really doing this the bootstrap way. So we're just the two of us. We've done some Reddit posts and we've sent it to our friends and stuff like that. And that was intentional. Actually, our goal with the first version of the game was just to get feedback and find out if people like it. And we've gotten that really good feedback. But with a game like this, it doesn't really make sense for us to pour any money into trying to market it when the game doesn't have any way of making money. It's totally free. We don't have any ads. We're never going to put ads in it. We hate when there's ads in games.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's kind of not the approach. And, we have the luxury of having a little bit of time. We were both working until last year. So we have a little bit of time where we can sort of fiddle around with the game, and we're not working for some company that's pushing us to, you need to make this money, you need to make this budget by this date. So we're able to kind of slow roll it, get some feedback, and then decide what we want to do next before we, sort of light a bunch of money on fire with advertising or anything like that. But we're really happy. 1,000 installs is great. It's a big enough player base that we can actually get some feedback. We can look at the numbers, we can look at the progression and figure out where people are getting stuck or where people are dropping off. And that's going to inform the next steps of development for us for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that we really had foreseen this type of reaction to the game. We thought it would be, some people would try it and say it was fun, but I didn't expect to see such competitiveness on the leaderboard. So I think that kind of made us rethink what this game was. And now I think this launch that we had is more of a late beta or like an early access, and we can see it. There's a lot more to do with this game. There's a lot more potential. So we're going to take a lot of feedback and focus on it for future updates.
Yeah, and we found out about this game through Twitter. So, it was great that you guys were able to, get out there on that. So, I think that's really helpful too, is, advertising stuff on Twitter. It seems like there's a lot of indie game developers out there pushing their new products and development out there on Twitter. So it's helpful.
Yeah. Twitter and Instagram has been great too. And honestly, Reddit has really come through. we can kind of see a measurable uptick in installs when we post to these different places. Reddit was one of the most surprising ones. I mean, not super surprising. We were hoping that this would happen, but it just would, when we saw that curve kind of go up when we did a certain Reddit post, it was just like it took us all day to figure out if it was real or not, because we didn't believe it.
Were there or are there any plans to add additional levels to the game?
We're definitely talking about a bunch of different stuff. We want to make sure the game is deep enough to keep people interested for a long time and keep it competitive. Mm-hmm. So we have a bunch of different ideas. We're playing around with ways to make the current level, to add some strategy to it and to sort of, add some additional depth. And we've definitely talked about some different level ideas. But yeah, we're definitely going to add more stuff to it. What shape that takes is TBD. We'll see. We got to experiment. So we're kind of go through the same process we did when we were initially developing the game, which is try a bunch of different stuff, see what we think is fun, and really play a ton of it. And then before we reveal what the next version will be for players. But there's definitely more coming soon.
Oh, cool. Excellent.
Awesome. Now, my score sucks. I'm going to be honest. I've been playing for a little bit. I've been trying my best to pass my score. I suck at it. What's your guys' best record in the game?
Right. So I'm almost embarrassed to say, because the thing is, I think that I have obviously I must have put more time into playing this game than anybody else. And yeah, in one iteration of the game, I've gotten over like 550 seconds, something like that.
Oh my God.
But I don't think that was quite the latest version of the game. But I feel like that's sort of one of the things that you need if you're going to make a game like this. The creators actually have to be pretty good at it, because you want to be able to figure out like what are we going to do in terms of making this game fun at the point where, at some point we're going to have a certain percentage of our player population that has gotten above 100 seconds, above 200 seconds, above 300 seconds. And we have to kind of think all that through. And in order to do it, you have to play it from the beginning to the end. You can't just start at 300 seconds and try to guess what the player is feeling at that point and try to extrapolate from there. It doesn't really work. So yeah, I've just been playing my heart out. Eric as well. I don't know what Eric's highest score is. Do you know?
Not that high. I think I've probably played the second most of anyone. So if you look at like how much I've played versus what my high score is, I'm probably the worst GOAT player. I'm like really bad at platformers. I always have been. My virtue as a gamer is patience. I can play games that require you to be patient and grind a lot, but I've just never been good at platformers. But in this game, because I've played so much, I think my best is about 360, 350, somewhere in that range.
That's better than mine.
It took a long time. For the first like several months, I was like really struggling to get in the 40, 50 range. I think I've played so much that it's automatic. I find that I'm actually best if I'm not really paying attention, if I can just turn off my brain and just try to do it automatically. But we have a friend of ours, my friend Sam, who has only been playing for the last couple weeks since we've released the game. And he's already, blown way past me, and he's been very committed, putting in several hours a day. So, definitely I'm not going to be the all-time high score, but I may have the all-time hours played when this is all said and done, just because I like the game so much.
Yeah. And you could definitely be the daily GOAT, pretty commonly. So,
yeah,
that's what I'm aiming for.
Yeah. Do you guys know offhand what the longest somebody has played, like as far as what their record is? Yeah. I saw something, I think like 422 seconds was on there recently.
Yep. That's the one. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And that number is amazing. What is even cooler about that number is this person, I'm not going to say how much time they put in that day to get that score. But they put in a lot of time. They woke up at the crack of dawn, because we saw that score and we're just like, how did they do this? They woke up at like 7:30 a.m., started playing, and just played for hours, and finally got that score. And that is, I haven't looked it up, but something tells me that that's a pretty typical day. So it's kind of cool to see that this game has found such a committed audience, people who are so dedicated to the game, and even after they get the world high score, they're still playing it for several hours a day. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that certainly is a lot of commitment to to be that dedicated to go. All right, I'm gonna be the one. I'm gonna break the record. I'm gonna be number one in this game. So, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try. I won't reach it though.
Yeah,
you never know. You never know.
Yeah,
Keep
true.
trying. Keep playing.
Is there any idea of a Ready Set Go 2 in the future or something similar?
Well, we've been talking about that, but I think for the moment, what makes sense is just to keep adding to the current app. We certainly have not exhausted our audience yet. Like I said, we only have about 1,000 players. So since we've gotten kind of the thumbs up from the audience that, hey, there might be something here that people like, we're going to keep adding to it. And the nature of games these days is that you can really easily update them and make improvements to the same app that people have already installed, as opposed to something new. I think if we did a Ready Set Go 2, I think it would be something different. It would be, a 3D version of the Goat or a different type of gameplay style. Whereas we still feel like there's a lot that we can add to this version of the game to make it more fun and make it deeper. So it'll be more like an ongoing live service type of game, as opposed to a bunch of different discrete iterations that we release as sequels.
Right. I can't wait to see what's coming down the line.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Yeah. So I know everybody's right now dealing with the COVID-19 stuff. Has that quarantine type of stuff affected you guys as far as developing? I mean, it seems like it not really if you're just the two of you. But are you dealing with any of the issues where a lot of other developers might be dealing with?
Yeah, not really. I think it hasn't affected the game much. It is definitely. I mean, personally, the quarantine has given me more focus. There's no, I'm just there's I can't. I'm not really going outside. I'm not going out much. So, when I'm bored, I'll just focus on the game. The funniest thing though is that like me and Eric actually would see each other quite a bit. He'd come up once a week to test out the game and we'll talk about our strategy. And so literally, I think he's the last person who's been in my house pre-quarantine. Aside from my girlfriend and I. So yeah, I think that's the only thing. It just kind of affects the social dynamic. But I grew up playing video games, talking on Ventrilo and Mumble and those things. So I'm kind of used to having that remote connection. And it's not that different from that. It's actually very similar. It's almost like we're playing a game rather than making a game. So I think that we're still just as productive. Still, hoping that this thing's gonna end pretty soon. So we'd have more FaceTime. That'd be nice. But in terms of the game's roadmap, hasn't really been affected by it.
Yeah, good. And do you, as far as the studio, do you guys have like an actual studio that you go to, or do you just basically work from home and stuff like that on the game itself?
Yeah, just working from home. The studio is our homes.
Nice.
Yeah, if we figure out a way to make some money off of Ready Set Go someday, that's the dream. Right. At least a small studio where we pay way too much on rent in San Francisco.
Yes, yeah. Is it something that you think you guys would do? Go to like a E3 conference or some kind of video game convention and promote Ready Set Go?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know that Ready Set Go is the right game to promote at those conferences, but if it takes off, I could see that working. Like, I would have said that Flappy Bird, for example, is not the game that you go to E3 to promote. But after it took off and had however many millions of players, at that point, I think they made a good case to actually go to E3 and at least. Well, maybe not E3, but there's the GDC and talk about just like marketing strategy. Like, how did they get the game out there, and how do they find an audience? So there's a lot of useful information to share with other game developers. So we might have that. but I definitely think that we'll go to conferences like that for future games. We wanted to get this one out there quick, get the experience so we can work on something bigger and more in depth. And right now that we're still going to focus on GOAT, but eventually we'll probably switch off to another game. And I would love to go to a conference and promote the game there.
Yeah. Yeah, we both go to the PAX East conference here in Boston.
Oh, nice.
This year they were lucky enough to have it a little bit earlier than they normally do. And instead of March, they had it in at the end of February, so they got it in before a lot of things really became difficult to for crowds and stuff.
Did they move it up on purpose?
I don't think they did on purpose. I think it was just probably a change of time, just because
it was just for convenience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that worked out.
Yeah, it worked out nicely for them, for that. Yeah. Yeah,
I've never been to a PAX. I would love to go to a PAX, just as to view the different games there. I'm curious, did you see any mobile games or games that were similar to Ready Set Go there? I
didn't see games similar to that, but there were a number of mobile game developers there.
Very cool.
It's my wife and I usually we go on a Thursday and a Friday where it's a little bit less crowded, and like I was telling Mr. K, when I go to these things, I don't really worry about going to the big developers like the Xbox and Nintendo and all. I spend my time wandering around and talking to a lot of the smaller indie game developers, because I think it's so much more interesting to find out what their game is about and talk to them and try out their games. And they're just dying to tell you about the game and get you to try it. And, and hey, it's on Steam right now, but we're going to try to get it on Xbox. I mean, so it's a lot more interesting to me. Some people go to these things and they want to spend their whole entire time standing in line waiting to go play, Animal Crossing or something like that. To me, that's not what I want to. I don't want to do that. I want to go and visit with everybody else and talk to them, find out what their game is. I come back and I have like a list of games that I'm like, okay, I got to wait for this game to come out. I got to look for this one. So
I love that. That's cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm curious, is there something that draws you more to indie games, aside from, meeting the developers and going to PAX, but is there something that you think is kind of inherent to the indie games that draws you to them as opposed to the big AAA titles that are out there?
For me, I think it's just, a lot of it's just different games, different styles of games, the stories and stuff like that. I'm always, I like playing like a lot of different games, different styles. Gotcha. So, I'm like you, Eric. I'm not very good at platformer type games, jumping and doing this and that. It's sometimes a little bit difficult for me, but, it's a mix for me. I mean, I do like the big title games. They're a lot of fun, but I think a lot of the indie game developers, there's a lot of interesting games out there, and I think there's a little bit more variety and different styles of games, and it's a lot of. I think it's a lot of fun to play them. I mean, there's going to be some games that aren't going to be that great, but I mean, we've been doing this for about 8 weeks now, and the games that I played, I mean, I may have sat and tried some of them, or some of them I might have been like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'm not, but between Mr. K and I, we kind of throw titles out there and they're like, how about this game? Let's try this. And you end up finding games that you're like, wow, this is really fun. This is a really fun game. So
very cool.
I mean, I think indie games I like indie games because you feel with most games, I feel like you feel the passion the developers have put in. And I feel that with Ready Set Go.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
You guys put a lot of work into this, and that's what I feel a lot of indie developers do, but they get slept on, and that upsets me. So I feel like it's deserved to go out and play these games for them so that they can continue what they like to do, and then they can build upon themselves and make the games even better than before.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. We need more players like you, I think, around the world.
Yeah. Mr. K is. I keep telling him he's got to somehow get a career in game. You get those guys that play professional, like esports or the other games and stuff like that. And he's one of those guys that I've never seen anybody play a game and just like defeat games.
Oh, really? Just crush
like, yeah. Like, I mean, when Cuphead came out, he defeated Cuphead and got 100% on it. And I was like, "Are you
get past the second level on Cuphead?"
I was like, "Are you kidding?"
It was so hard.
But he takes. I mean, he'll spend so much time trying to defeat the game and get through the whole entire game just so he can experience the whole game. And I think that's it's just one of those things that I think has made it one of the reasons why we did this podcast was just to sort of try out different games and get him to really, I mean, because he can, like I said, he can get into these games and really explain them and talk more about them. Whereas, whereas I have a little bit more trouble getting through some games sometimes, and my skill level is not as good as his, but it's been a lot of fun doing this. So anything you guys want to plug before we end the interview? Anything like on Twitter or anything that you guys are doing right now, blog wise?
Eric, can you think of anything?
Just play the game. Yeah. Anybody who listens to this, it's totally free. It's on iOS and Android. Just go to readysetgoat.com and you'll see some gameplay videos there, and you can get access to the iOS and Android versions. And we're really just looking for player feedback. We're really responsive because we have a small player base. So we'd love to hear from anybody who plays it and has any thoughts. And yeah, that's it. Just play this fun, free game. That's all we ask.
Now, you guys were talking about like you wanted testers on the website, I saw.
Sure. Yeah. If there's, it's still at that point where we're looking for feedback. We're trying to figure out the next steps. And definitely if folks, hit any issues, if you've got some old Android phone or something and you hit some issues, then we want to hear about that for sure. So you can contact us through the website. You'll see there's a contact email. You can post on Reddit. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram. So just reach out to us any which way, and we'll be happy to hear from folks.
Yeah, and anyone who, I'm looking at the leaderboard right now, anyone who can dethrone Goldie Games at 422 seconds or Smabbit at 401 seconds, please play the game. If you can do better, we can learn a lot from that and make the game better from it. So we'd appreciate that.
I'll try my best.
Okay. I have one more thing to plug. So we on May 22nd is National Goat Day, in case you didn't know. Very popular holiday.
I'm going to celebrate it now.
There is a goat sanctuary that I heard of that is, I believe, in California. It's called Goatlandia. It's goatlandia.org. It's a farm animal sanctuary, and they take in all sorts of animals, goats and otherwise. If you feel like being charitable, you can go to goatlandia.org, give a donation on National Goat Day. I'm sure they'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, feel free to send the link to us too.
Okay.
We'll promote that as well.
Will do.
Cool. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it.
Highly appreciate. Yeah.
No, we had a great time, and thanks for giving us a platform to talk about our game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you that I downloaded that on the iPhone 6S, and it worked fine.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's. I'm sure there might be some older iPhones out there still floating around.
Yeah.
But it worked fine on that. So
okay,
I didn't have any issues. So it's good.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you again, and appreciate your time and coming on with us. And we hopefully we'll be talking to you sometime soon down the road.
Yeah. Thanks,
looking
guys.
forward to it.
All right.
Nice meeting you guys. It's been really fun.
Take care.